Welcome to Azeem USA, where we transform complex topics into clear, crucial insights. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a piece of proposed legislation that has been making enormous waves across Washington, the One Big Beautiful Bill. With an aspirational name like that, it promises a lot. But the central question we'll explore is this: is it truly big and beautiful for everyone? This bill, which has already passed the House of Representatives and is now being intensely debated in the Senate, is a remarkably comprehensive legislative package. At its core, it seeks to combine significant long-term tax cuts with equally substantial reductions in federal spending, particularly targeting our nation's foundational social safety net programs. So, let's unpack what's really inside. When we hear that ambitious title, what are the headline-grabbing promises? Fundamentally, the bill has a dual nature. On one side, it aims to make permanent the trillions of dollars in tax cuts that were originally enacted in 2017, a cornerstone of the previous administration's fiscal policy. To make this more appealing to a broader audience, the bill includes what some sources call populist flourishes. The most prominent of these is the provision to implement no taxes on tips and overtime. This proposal, which emerged as a key campaign pledge, creates a new deduction for tipped income and exempts overtime wages from federal tax. However, it's not a blanket benefit. The bill includes guardrails, limiting this to specific professions like food service and hair care, and excluding highly compensated employees. Researchers emphasize that the vast majority of less affluent households don't work in these specific professions or clock enough overtime for this provision to be a life-changing financial benefit. For families, the bill includes a temporary boost to the child tax credit, increasing it by $500 to $2,500 per child, but this increase is only effective through 2028 and is limited to parents with valid Social Security numbers. And for seniors, while an original pledge to completely eliminate taxes on Social Security was not included, likely due to its immense cost, a more modest deduction has been proposed. The bill adds $4,000 to the standard deduction specifically for taxpayers age 65 or older, but this is also temporary and phases out as income increases. So, while these provisions sound good on the surface, they are targeted, often temporary, and may be more symbolic than substantive for many. This is where we must look at the other side of the coin, the provisions largely designed to cater to those with higher incomes and substantial wealth. This is where, according to nonpartisan analysis from institutions like the Congressional Budget Office or the Penn-Wharton budget model, the bill fundamentally represents a significant shift in federal benefits from low-income households to high-income households. One of the most significant provisions is the expanded estate tax exemption. Currently, the exemption is already high, over $14 million for individuals and $28 million for married couples. This bill proposes increasing it by another $1 million for individuals and effectively doubling it for couples. As one source we reviewed described it, it's kind of grotesque and really cruel, especially when viewed alongside the cuts to programs for the vulnerable. Then there's the increased deduction for pass-through business entities like sole proprietorships and S-corporations. One source bluntly called this one of the worst tax provisions ever to be seriously considered because the benefits overwhelmingly flow to the wealthy owners of these businesses, not to everyday workers. The bill also proposes raising the cap on the state and local tax or SALT deduction from $10,000 to a staggering $40,000, a change that primarily benefits high-income individuals in high-tax states. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of the bill is its impact on the social safety net and consequently, who wins and who loses. Despite its spending cuts, the bill is projected to add very significant amounts to the federal deficit, anywhere from $2.4 trillion to $2.8 trillion over the next 10 years. As the director of the Penn-Wharton budget model stated, somebody has to pay for that. It's not true that everybody is going to be a winner from it. And the data shows exactly who the winners and losers are. Let's look at the CBO analysis. When you factor in both the tax changes and the massive cuts to healthcare and food assistance, the bottom 30% of Americans actually lose under this bill. For the lowest 10%, it's a net loss of about 4% of their after-tax income. Meanwhile, the top 10% see a 2% gain. the middle class experiences a largely neutral impact. It is in effect a massive upward redistribution of resources. To make this tangible, let's consider the case of Tara, an example from a Washington Post analysis. Tara is an unmarried woman with 2 children, earning $20,000 a year and relying on Medicaid and SNAP, or food stamps. While the bill's tax changes would give her a benefit of about $751, the cuts to her vital benefits would result in a loss of over $1,600, leaving her nearly $900 worse off each year. This perfectly underscores how benefit cuts can completely swamp any small tax changes for low-income families. The cuts to Medicaid alone are projected to cause as many as 16 million people to lose their healthcare coverage over the next decade, through new barriers like work requirements and complex administrative hurdles that trip people up. Given all this, you might expect a strong public reaction, and you'd be right. Despite its name, the bill is shockingly unpopular. Initial polling showed only 27% support versus 53% opposition. What's truly fascinating is a Yale study that tested how information changes minds. In their experiment, when respondents were given the full picture, both the tax cuts and the spending cuts, support for the bill plummeted from 28% to just 11%, while opposition soared to 78%. That's a 7-to-1 ratio against the bill when people know what's in it. Even more remarkably, this held true for Republicans. Republican support dropped from 54% to just 23% when they were fully informed, with opposition jumping to 61%. This suggests that the bill's survival heavily depends on people not knowing its full details. So why, despite clear negative impacts, widespread public opposition, and even internal division, does this bill seem almost inevitable? The answer lies in the legislative process. It's moving through a mechanism known as budget reconciliation, which allows it to bypass the Senate filibuster and pass with a simple 51-vote majority. This procedural tool, combined with a powerful ideological imperative to extend the 2017 tax cuts, immense presidential pressure, and a ticking clock before a potential change of power, creates an almost unstoppable political momentum. Ultimately, the story of the One Big Beautiful Bill is a stark lesson. It shows how a piece of legislation can be marketed with populist promises, while its core structure achieves a very different, and for many, a much less beautiful, reality. It highlights the profound importance of digging beyond the headlines to understand the true impact of the policies that shape our nation.